Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. Today's episode is a very special episode and the start of what I hope to be a new series in Tales from the Fandom starting in this year that is 2020. I am joined by Lauren. You may have listened to her episode back in episode 160. Back in December of 2019, Lauren joined me and we talked about a number of different fandoms and her business in the reads and her cosplay, which you can find at Lauren Does Cosplay. But we talked about doing a new series, which would be called Unpopular Opinion, because Lauren says that she has lots of unpopular opinions amongst fandoms, and we are going to dive right in and talk about some of them. And Lauren, welcome to the podcast again for 2020.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Again, I'm excited to make people not like my opinions.
When we had finished recording the podcast, we kind of had riffed about, you had a lot of unpopular opinions and you were game for doing a special episode, hopefully maybe once a month, maybe every other month. We'll see how it goes. But I'm excited for you to be back and to have, some of these unpopular opinions brought out for fandom knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, after our last podcast, we talked for like 45 minutes afterwards, and we were just talking and talking. And it was like, you know what? I think we should save this. This needs to be its own whole segment of us. I don't even remember what we talked about the last time, but.
Oh my gosh, it was so many different things. And you kindly provided a list of different topics, to kickstart some of them off. And I asked followers on Twitter and on my personal Facebook page about what people would be interested in hearing. And we're going to, as you said before we started recording, we're going to ease into it with your unpopular opinion, which seems to be, I don't want to say the opinion is softening or changing somewhat since the release of it, but the Hobbit movies.
The Hobbit movies.
You like the Hobbit movies?
I like them, and I feel like it's sort of the general consensus that people didn't like them, but I think they're great, and I think there's should I just get into it?
Well, let's see here. I think. And we might have talked about this on your episode, or we might have talked about it after because we just riffed for so long about things that kind of it merges together.
I know. I don't remember what made it into what part of our talk.
I'll start off by saying I remember I saw the first Hobbit movie in the theaters. I was super psyched for them. Number one, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be great." Yeah. I wasn't feeling the 3 movie formula because I didn't think there's that much material to put in there.
Fair.
But I saw the first one in theaters. I didn't see the second one or the third one in theaters.
Really?
And I watched them on like renting them Blu-ray or Netflix or whatever it happened to be. I don't think Netflix. It must have been just like renting them. Didn't really care for a lot of the additions. And I grew up with the old Rankin Bass, The Hobbit, cartoon movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that hits everything I need in The Hobbit. And I've read the book and there's a lot of extra stuff that got added in.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I wasn't a fan, and I'm going to say as I said at the beginning, I was like, I think that the opinion of the Hobbit movies are softening a little bit. I don't think there's as much, I don't want to say hatred, but dislike for them. I think it's slowly changing, but I could be wrong.
Well, and it could be just that it's not really relevant, I guess, anymore. People aren't really talking about them that much as when they were first out, and it was like everyone was either going to see them and hating them or whatever. But I feel like one of the biggest complaints, I guess, that I hear from people about them is they're not Lord of the Rings. They're just not Lord of the Rings. It's like, well, obviously, of course they're not. Nothing is ever going to meet the scale or the grandeur of Lord of the Rings. And that's just how it is. It's a different movie set with a totally different tone. Lord of the Rings is a lot more serious. It's in a time in Middle Earth when like the rings of power are back, and like Sauron is building momentum again. So it's a lot of a more scary time for Middle Earth. Whereas in the Hobbit times, it's just like happy-go-lucky. Everyone's feeling good. There's little wars going on, but nothing crazy. We've got there's a lot more merriment with like the songs and everything, and I think that translates because the Hobbit it was meant for Tolkien's children. He wrote it for his kids, so it's a kids book. Like it should have a different tone than Lord of the Rings, which is like a high epic fantasy series.
Exactly. And it's definitely something where, again, for me, because I feel like we're going to go back and forth on opinions of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that really got me between all three movies was they had incredible characters in
Mm-hmm.
the dwarves, the group
Yep.
of dwarves. Each of them had such a unique design and clothing style, and like how they spoke and talked and interacted with each other. And you only got like three, maybe four of them like to the forefront, because of course you're having Thor, and you
Mm-hmm.
got Keely and Feely, and then
Dwalin.
you have the older one, which I can't remember his name,
Balin.
Balin.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really get a sense of the others. Like they're
Yeah.
just there.
Yeah. Which and I don't know if you've ever watched like any of the behind the scenes stuff. Like they come out with those extended editions with.
Hmm.
Have you seen any of that?
I have not. I actually, I one of the things that I've been going through with my kids is showing them the extended editions of Lord of the Rings. So we
Mm-hmm.
just finished Two Towers
Nice.
over Christmas break, and we have Return of the King set up for, I think, in February or March we're going to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But I do not own any of the Hobbit movies at all.
Wow, this is crazy. Okay. All right. So what was I just saying? Hold on.
Behind the scenes stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So sort of the history of The Hobbit or whatever in terms of the films is that they were originally going to be made by Guillermo del Toro, and he was going to, I can't remember if he was going to make it either one movie or two movies, but Warner
Hmm.
Brothers was like, it needs to be longer. So I think he was going to make it two, and then some circumstances happened that he sort of dropped the film after already having a lot of it prepared, a lot of the pre-production done, and he had to stop doing it. So that's when Peter Jackson took it back on, and he stated, when he was making Lord of the Rings, that he never was going to make a Hobbit movie. He was never interested in trying to get that many characters on screen at one time. So when he took it up, it was like already something that he wasn't super crazy about doing, and then Warner Brothers was like, no, actually it needs to be three movies. So in terms of the argument of like everyone being like, it's three movies, that's too much, I think everyone agrees that it's too much. Peter Jackson didn't want it to be three movies. No one wanted it to be three movies, but he sort of just had to fill to even get it made. Like Warner Brothers said, it's three movies or it's nothing, sort of thing.
Right.
So I feel like he did the best he could. There is definitely things in it that I don't like. I don't think like the Legolas Tariel romance was particularly necessary. I don't mind Tariel and Keely, I think. I don't mind that like romance, but the love triangle is like, that's too much.
Hmm.
I don't like the guy that is like the Hobbit's version of Wormtongue. I don't remember his name. He's like that slimy character from the people town. What is it called? Do you know the guy I'm talking about?
Yeah, not Bard, but
Yeah,
yeah,
the
like
slimy guy.
the I don't. I
can't
don't even
remember.
remember his name. It's
Yeah.
just like he's like the mayor of the town or something.
Well, there's the mayor, and then it's like his little ghoulish, slimy
Yeah.
Wormtongue guy, and I just
Yep.
thought he was like, I don't know, I just didn't like that character. So there's obviously stuff that's too fillery and too much,
Mhm.
but I think how he built the story out as a whole into three movies, I think was done decently well for what he had to do.
Okay. So Why do you like them? I
Why
gotta know.
do I
Like what is what I
like
mean, I know it's Lord of the Rings and I know
Mhm.
it's The Hobbit, and dang if they didn't get some great casting
Yeah.
in Martin Freeman as Bilbo.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's probably one of my favorite castings
It's
of that
incredible.
series.
Yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, not only is the casting pretty much spot on in every regard, I think I think especially the first one, Unexpected Journey, is really good. I think that one's probably the most solid. The second one is just sort of okay, but I think they did Smaug exceptionally well. And if you argue, I'll be mad.
Oh no, I totally agree. I am all there for Smaug. I think for me where I start getting lost
Mhm.
is the whole scene of not just not I think it's the combination of how much time they spend with the goblins,
Mhm.
like and that goblin king
It's a little
on
long.
top of the Mirkwood, like with the spiders,
Mhm.
which again, love like that whole part. Again, I'm coming from like, and I hate bringing it up, like the Rankin Bass thing where it's
Yeah.
like, 5 minutes, 10 minutes tops, and they're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Instead of like a 20-minute dream weird sequence of
Mhm.
being poisoned and what's going on, and like
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. It's tougher for me to get through the Hobbit movies than it is the Lord of the Rings movies.
Oh, I mean, but again, not even comparable. They're so not as good in comparison to Lord of the Rings, but they're fun for what they are. You see what I'm saying?
I got you there. I got you.
Okay, so in Unexpected Journey, yes, the goblin scene is a little bit too long. It's pretty crazy and wacky, but then also spliced into that whole scene is Bilbo and Smeagol or Gollum in Riddles in the Dark, like that whole.
Hmm.
It's a chapter in the book, and then they obviously have a whole scene dedicated to it in the movie. And I think that's one of the best scenes in the whole trilogy. Is just that scene between Gollum and Bilbo.
And that is probably, with the exception of like the interaction between Bilbo and Smaug
Hmm.
and the Battle of the Five Armies, like
Hmm.
that is the quintessential like Lord of the Rings thing right there. That
Yeah.
that whole scene and interplay between them.
Yes. Yeah. It just feels. It feels like it could have been in, Fellowship of the Ring or something, or like in a flashback, and it it,
Hmm.
it would have felt right.
Exactly. I agree.
So other things I like about them, I think the songs are fun. I think um, just sort of seeing new parts of Middle Earth, like going to Dale and seeing the Lonely Mountain and Mirkwood. You're sort of seeing different parts of Middle Earth, which I think is fun. And obviously, it all looks amazing. All the CGI is really good, except one of my biggest qualms with the whole series is Azog the Defiler. Or I guess all of the orcs in The Hobbit, they're all CGI, and I really dislike that.
I did not know that. I did not know that all the orcs were CGI.
Well, they have like some motion capture behind them, like there's people doing the movements, obviously, but the
Hmm.
entire facade of the orcs are CGI. In which in Lord of the Rings, it's all practical effects. It's people in prosthetics and makeup, and they look so real. Like even though they were made 20 years ago, you watch Lord of the Rings and you see the orcs, and you're like, those look like they could like be in my room right now. They look
Hmm.
so realistic, and they've stood the test of time because they actually look like that on the set. Whereas, like Azog the Defiler, it's just a guy in a green suit that they totally CGI'd over. And I think it looks like a video game to me. And I just think that part was really poorly done.
I do like, again, you said, I love seeing different areas of Middle Earth. Like
Hmm.
it's one of the things where if you're not reading up on like the appendices
Yeah.
or getting into like the nitty-gritty, like you're missing out on stuff. Like one of the things as a kid, and even when I got older into like high school and college before the movies came out, before Lord of the Rings came out, because that's my generation, is like
Mm-hmm.
college time was Lord of the Rings time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but one of the things I always was like was I was very confused of, well, there's dwarves. There's clearly dwarves. Why
Yeah.
aren't there dwarves fighting
Mm-hmm.
against Sauron and Saruman? Like,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on with them? Why aren't there more people? Because there's
Yeah.
clearly like other towns that have great warriors,
Uh-huh.
and you don't get into it until you read those little extras at the end where it's like, oh, they were fighting on different fronts and there was
Yeah.
stuff going on in their areas, and you don't see that, but that's what you're reading.
Yeah, or at least you get a little bit of it in Lord of the Rings, where you see that men were sort of more easily corrupted to fight for Sauron. There's just like
Hmm.
little clips of them like storming villages and stuff, but yeah, I mean, there's so much lore to everything that it's hard to even fit it into a 9-hour trilogy, which is crazy. Which is why I love that they do the extended editions on like both ends. That the Lord of the Rings have extended, the Hobbits have extended. Which, have you seen any of the Hobbit extended
I
editions?
have not. I've not seen any Hobbit extended.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I will make a case for Battle of the Five Armies extended edition because it is crazy. Peter Jackson doesn't really do a lot of gore. Like, there's obviously a lot of fighting and battles, but there's never really like big blood splatter or like anything gory in any of the movies. But he just said fuck it in the extended Battle of Five Armies, because there's hacking and slashing and blood flying all over the place, and it is absolute madness, and I love it.
That's awesome. Like, I did love, Battle of the Five Armies. I did love a lot of like the bigger set pieces that I'm familiar with, and I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, I'm down for that.
Hmm.
I guess the other thing is, like, I was confused, like, with Bard,
Hmm.
because he's not the character I recognize from my cartoony movie.
Right.
But, I liked that they could at least flesh him out and give him that black arrow,
Hmm.
and they did, like, a lot of, like, those little touches that I really liked, that they
Yeah.
included in the movie. It's like, "Okay, cool." I
Yeah.
also thought, the extended time with, and I'm gonna pronounce it wrong or get it wrong, with, Bjorn.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I almost felt like the extra time with Bjorn was like making up for people's lack of Tom Bombadil in the Lord of the
Oh.
Rings trilogy.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know if there's like any truth to that necessarily, but I think that totally is a good interpretation. And they're both very integrated into nature and like their love for Middle Earth. So I think that's a good point.
And what else? What else did I like? I
Yeah,
liked.
I want to know what you like about them. If you had to like find something in them that you like.
I mean, I like I said, I love the dwarves' looks. I
Hmm.
love I love pretty much the entire of the first movie.
Yeah.
And from there it goes down, just because it feels like it drags at times. I
Yeah.
don't like. I'm fine with the addition of Tariel.
Hmm.
I didn't have a problem. I disliked the relationship part.
Hmm.
Not only with Tariel and Legolas, but Tariel and insert either Keely or
I'm
Feely.
gonna look it
I
up. I
think
think it's Keeley, but I'll
I
double
think
check.
I think it's Keely, because I think Keely is Aiden Turner.
Yeah.
So he's got like that name recognition of being a popular actor.
Yeah. Okay. It
Um,
is Keeley, just to fact.
but I think that the relationship between Tariel and Keely takes away from the future relationship that Legolas has with Gimli. Like, they have that
Mm,
like dwarf elf relationship that hasn't really been seen, but now you have Tariel and Keely having this relationship, and I don't know if like they're trying to be like, oh, Legolas, because Legolas in Lord of the Rings movies was like not feeling Gimli at first,
yeah.
but now he's like looking at this relationship that Tariel was having, and regardless of like what that relationship was, it's like, are you trying to soften Legolas? Because it
Mm.
doesn't translate
Yeah.
if you're watching The Hobbit into the Lord of the
I
Rings.
see what you're saying. Yeah, like maybe so he has that from his past, and then when he's 50 years older, he sort of remembers that, like, oh, elves and dwarves can be.
They can be friends.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is a little bit chintzy.
And I do like the addition of Radagast.
Oh, I
I
love
think
Radagast. Yeah.
I think Radagast as a character just works on so many different levels because Gandalf and Saruman, they're not the same, but they're
Mhm.
close enough
Mhm.
at times.
Mhm.
But Radagast is just out there, and he
Yeah.
adds like a different layer of like wizards because that's one of the things that I'm glad they don't go into like the wizard
The
stuff
blue
a
wizards.
lot with
Yeah.
the movies,
Uh-huh.
but I like that they have Radagast in there to be like, look, not all wizards are Saruman and
Yeah,
Gandalf.
exactly. Yeah, just sort of that introduction of like, oh look, there are other wizards and there are other dwarves, and you're sort of just seeing all these different facets of Middle Earth that you maybe got a little taste of in Lord of the Rings. Like, Gimli is obviously in Lord of the Rings, but he's really the only dwarf that you ever see. So just to see this whole other, like, oh, there's dwarves from different places and there's wizards that live in the forest, and yeah, there's a lot of little elements like that.
Yeah, I like that addition because that, again, if you're reading The Hobbit, Gandalf is like, "Oh yeah, I totally went. I disappeared and now I'm back and I
Mhm.
did something, but I'm not really telling you what I did. But if you read the appendices, you totally know what I
Yeah.
did a little bit."
Yeah, and they do, there are some parts in the extended Hobbits that show a little bit more of, like, what Gandalf is doing. When I know there's a big extended part, I haven't seen them in a while, but, um, they sort of explain where Thrain went, Thorin's father or his
Okay.
grandfather. They sort of, like, explain where he went and like what he's been doing. So, which I'm sure is like, hidden deep in the appendices sort of thing. But it's also stuff that it's like, ooh, it might have actually helped if that had made the movie. Like, oh, one of my least favorite parts is, although I love Battle of the Five Armies and I cry like a little baby every single time I watch it, um, I don't like that they don't show the succession of like the dwarvish line. Like, it's sort of like, okay, Thorin's dead, Feely and Keely, or just both of them.
Yeah,
Yeah, Feely and Keely
they
both
both
died. So
die.
it's like, okay, what happens to the line of Durin? It's never really explained in the movie, but they
Hmm.
do explain it in the extended edition. It goes to that other dwarf that comes in and helps in the Battle of the
Okay.
Five
Yeah.
Armies. It's like he is like clearly the new king, but I don't like when actual important plot points are in the extendeds and not in the actual movie.
Hmm.
So that was sort of a mess.
Yeah. That's a Dane Ironfoot
Dane,
is
yes. Hmm.
because I have the names of people pulled up, and it's the only dwarf that's
Yeah.
not in like the other two movies.
Yep, that's the one. So you sort of see like Thorin's burial moment and like the crown being passed to Dane.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So why, like, if people are listening, okay, and they haven't seen The Hobbit, they've heard us go back and forth on this. Um, why? What's your pitch for having them watch this movie or the three movies?
Oh, well, I don't know. Everything's so subjective, but I I mean, I'm just such trash for like anything that I'm if I'm like a fan, if I'm part of a fandom and something is going to come out that's related to that fandom, I'm gonna go see it. Like, I don't even care if it's good or if it's bad. Like, I just want to see what has been made. Like, for they're making the Lord of the Rings TV show. I don't know if it's going to be good or bad, but I'm gonna watch it because it's Lord of the Rings. How could I not watch it? So I mean, if you haven't seen them at this point, I don't know if there's like a crazy pull to go see them if you haven't already, but they're just fun. They're lighthearted. It's a fun adventure story. I would argue that you could watch it just to see Martin Freeman's performance of Bilbo. I think it's exceptional. Uh, Benedict Cumberbatch as Smaug, incredible. So there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot of good performances, and it's just a fun story.
Okay. I think you and I talked about it that I had found this like the Hobbit cut, like where they put all three movies and they cut them
Mhm.
together to make
Mhm.
one movie,
Yeah.
but it doesn't work because like the sound, like the music is all like jambled.
Yeah, which would try to ruin it.
Yeah, it like I watched it just to see like how it worked, and I was like, it's still not what I'm looking for.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's such a small book, but another thing that Peter Jackson talks about in the appendices, like behind the scenes stuff, is how hard it is to get so many characters on screen and to make it like you couldn't just have 1 hour and a half movie or 2 hour movie with like 30 main characters. You would just be
Hmm.
like, who are all these people? What is going on? Why is no one talking? Like it would be so weird. So even if, say, over the course of the 3 movies, every dwarf or side character only has like 5 minutes of development. And even if they don't talk, even if it's just like, okay, that one has an ear trumpet and that one, doesn't only speaks in dwarvish, whatever it is, if even over 9 hours, each one only has 5 minutes, it's like that's still so necessary to make it work. Do you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like if that was all crammed into one movie and every character had 5 minutes of screen time, the movie would be over and nothing would have happened. So it's just a tricky. I don't know. It's a tricky spot to be in, and it would be hard to make that movie. And I'm honestly just impressed that they got anything put together that looks even remotely watchable.
Yeah, it is definitely something like I my excitement was there, and I was like, I'm here for the Hobbit movies. I'm here for like I'm down for New Zealand.
Hmm.
I like it. That's on my bucket list of places to go just for
Mine too.
seeing those locations and taking pictures and everything else. Like I don't know, and I think honestly, I think I need to go back and do like a rewatch.
Uh-huh.
Somehow because I don't know if they're available anywhere right now.
Yeah,
I
I'm not
know that the
sure.
Lord of the Rings trilogy hit Netflix, but they're not the extended editions.
Hmm.
But I might have to figure it out so I can watch them and try again
Yeah.
because there is value in them not only as seeing stuff happening but seeing like what's the it's the predecessor to Lord of the Rings and
Yeah.
it's got stuff in there and I haven't read some of these books that they're pulling stuff from either. So
Yeah. I mean, I think they're definitely I mean, it's a bummer that I know you don't like them, but I think you should just rewatch them and just try to enjoy the good parts for what they are. Just really enjoy Smaug and just there's so many awesome parts in them. And I'm not trying to make the case that they are anywhere close to as good as Lord of the Rings. That's not what I'm saying. But I
right.
think just to enjoy them for what they are, it's just like a fun, lighthearted story with a little bit of drama, a little bit of tension and action, but it's mostly just fun and lighthearted.
Here's a question I want to ask you because
Mhm.
I know when they came like I don't typically like especially after having done this podcast for almost 4 years,
Mhm.
I don't typically put my opinions out in
Mhm.
the world, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm curious though when they were coming out and you saw like people's comments or the discussions that people are having about the movies, like what like how did that make you feel as far as like because again it's subjective, everyone has their own opinion, but I'm just curious like were you like man that stinks, like how did they not see like what I saw?
Mhm. Well, okay, so they came out when I was in college, I think my first, second, and third year of college. And I went and saw them like they would always come out on Dead Week, like finals week. And I
Hmm.
was like, I'm going to see the midnight. Like that's just how it is. I have to go see it the second it comes out. And they're like 3.5 hours long, whatever. But I mean, I'm looking right now on my wall. I have all of my tickets framed from going to see The Hobbit in theaters because I never got that experience to go see The Lord of the Rings in theaters. So
Hmm.
it meant like a lot to me to be able to go see The Hobbits in theaters, even if it's not the same experience. But Also at the time, so those came out in what, 2012, 13, 14? Is that right?
Let's see here. I'm
I'm looking at,
trying to check the Wickers for
yeah,
this.
12, 13, 14. I think that's
Yep,
right.
12, 13, 14. Yeah.
So I wasn't really internety then, or like I don't think movie reviews were as prominent at the time. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
or what am I trying to say? Like now when a movie comes out, like if you go see Star Wars, you can talk about it with people like right after you go see it. You can get online, you can go on Reddit, you can go on Instagram, and you can talk about it with a million people. In
Mm-hmm.
2012, it wasn't really like that. It was like I just went saw it and I loved it, and that was sort of like that was sort of it. I talked about it with my friends.
Right.
I don't even remember seeing reactions on the internet about it. So I think I just was able to enjoy my own enjoyment of them for kind of a long time until I remember I had a friend. I was in an apartment in college with a bunch of girls, and this one of my roommates brought a guy over to our apartment one day, and he saw that I had all of my Lord of the Rings and all of my Hobbits on display, like right under our TV, like the entertainment system. And he was like, "Ugh, who's a Hobbit fan? The way they what did he say? He was like, the way they animated Smaug sucked ass." And I looked at him. I'd never met this person, and I said, "Get out of my apartment right now." And I looked at my friend. I was like, "He's got to go." And she was like, "You're right." And he left, and I never saw him again, which
Oh my goodness.
might make me sound like a terrible person, but it was just like, I'm sorry, friend, but if you're trying to date someone who thinks Smaug was shittily animated, he's got to go. He's not the one for you. That's not, if you can make a lot of critiques about the Hobbit movies, but you cannot critique how Smaug looks. That's forbidden.
Oh my goodness. It is definitely something where my wife is not into like pop culture. And I
Mhm.
used to always say like I'm not gonna marry somebody that's not into like X, Y, and Z.
Uh-huh.
And she totally was not into like a lot of what I was into.
Uh-huh.
And it's definitely education. I remember when we were in either engaged or just married, and I said, okay, it is time. I have all the extended editions of Lord of the Rings on DVD. We're going to just like camp out in our room or our apartment
Mhm.
with food and drinks, and we're not leaving.
Yeah. Bathroom breaks every hour and a half, and then press play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Like she didn't want to sit through them again when I was doing it with the kids, but
Mhm.
I'm just glad that she took the time to watch Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings.
I mean, I feel like I have a lot of friends who have like one part of the couple is like really nerdy, and then the other one sort of isn't into it or like doesn't hasn't even seen anything. I'm just like, how do you do that? But I think it's important that you just got to introduce it to them, whether they like it or not. You just have to make sure that they've seen it, and then you can sleep a little better at night.
Here's a question for you, as because we're going to start wrapping things up, and
Hmm.
I'm just curious. We had the Lord of the Rings movies,
Hmm.
and we have the Hobbit movies. The Hobbits are almost at this point, with Unexpected Journey. In 2 years, it will be 10 years since the movies came out,
Oh my
or
god, you're
that one
right.
came out,
Oh, that's
which
weird.
is yeah, it's mind blowing
Ooh,
because 2001, I think, is when Fellowship
yes,
came
it
out,
is.
which is like almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Mind blowing
Yes.
because I know my age and I'm like, okay, yep,
Yeah.
just keep picking up there.
Yeah.
And I guess it crosses over with like a few other fandoms of, do you think they'll ever remake them? Like, do you think that like, especially with
Ooh.
the Hobbit movies, do you think that there'd be a tackling of let's try to do a remake of them? Are they going to leave them alone? Are they going to? I mean, with Amazon doing the Lord of the Rings TV series, which is going to be set in the Second Age,
Uh-huh.
which is totally different.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, they kind of can play with whatever they want, for the most part.
Yeah.
But do you foresee in our lifetime them trying to do a remake of these movies, The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings series?
I hope not. I feel like something's. I especially don't think the Lord of the Rings ever needs to be remade. If anyone ever even tries that, that's just. I feel like that would sort of be a joke. But
Hmm.
I don't know if anyone would invest the budget into remaking. I mean, maybe if someone tried to make it like a one movie thing, but that's I don't know. I don't foresee that happening. I think that'd be sort of crazy, and it probably wouldn't happen for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't think anything needs to be touched there.
I don't think so either. I
Yeah.
think like it. I always used to joke like, I hope they don't remake Star Wars
Mhm.
because it'd be totally different. But at this point, it's going to be whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard to imagine them being like, okay, we invested X dollars in this, and now we're going to do it again.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that would happen. That'd be it's just too much money. And to get like because obviously Peter Jackson isn't gonna like remake his own movie, so then you'd be talking about like a totally different director, and I don't think that would happen. I hope it doesn't. I don't think it needs to be. Just if you didn't like the movie, just watch Lord of the Rings. If you didn't like the movie, just read the book. It doesn't need a whole nother hashing out.
Exactly. There's already we got the book, we got the animated movie,
Yeah.
we've got these movies. I mean, you don't really need more.
No, there's enough
I would hope.
content. Definitely enough content already.
Absolutely, and we're going to have even more content. I think it's this year, maybe. I don't
Well, the
know.
the TV show?
Amazon.
Yeah, I think it was 2020 is when I heard that it's not 2021, right?
I don't know.
No, I think it's 2020. It's gonna be sometime this year.
I don't see anything about when it's coming out. Oh, there it is. Newscast date. Give me the information. Oh, production is beginning in 2020. So
What?
my guess is we will see Amazon plans to film the first two episodes of season 1 in early 2020,
Oh,
then go
no.
on hiatus for 4 to 5 months to sketch out the plot architecture of season 2, and it looks like they may try to shoot season 1 and season 2 simultaneously.
Oh, now I'm sad.
Oh, I don't want to see 2 episodes and then go on hiatus for a long time. Like,
Oh, I was really thinking that it was gonna come out this year.
oh.
No.
But Amazon has agreed to produce 5 seasons already.
Okay, well, I think I did hear that, and I'm happy about it.
So I would say if we get 2, I would be happy. Here's my happiness rating.
Mhm.
I'd be happy if we got 2 episodes near the tail end of 2020, and then kicking everything off 2021 for the next 5 years.
Yeah, I would sign
Like,
up for that.
don't give me the first 2 episodes early and then make me wait a year
No,
or two, like
that's
a year and a half.
cruel.
That would be cruel and unusual
Yeah, and
punishment.
that's just sounds like a bad business model. Unless it was like so good, and maybe if the episodes were longer, like borderline movie length, but I
Hmm.
think if you released 2-hour-long episodes and then waited 6 months, that's a bad idea. I wanna ask your definitive Lord of the Rings slash Hobbit movie rating, like rank list.
Oh gosh. Okay. Man. Okay. So my first one is going to be Fellowship of the Ring
Mhm. Mhm.
because I love my hobbits and I love like they are my people.
Yeah,
If I was anything, I would be a hobbit,
agreed.
and you get to spend the most time with them on the first one. It's also probably one of the most, like, for me, the most iconic shot in the Lord of the Rings series is when they're all walking up the hill
Mm,
and you get like that 1 second like frame of each of them like individually
mm.
as they're cresting up, and it's like that swell of
Uh-huh.
music and you're like, yeah, like exactly. Yes. You get like that whole picture of the fellowship and you're like,
Mhm.
dang, that's cool. Cause they used that for the trailer and that was like hooking me
Yeah.
already. Like
Yeah,
like
me
they're
me
like
too
they're
when I was
they're
like
Sam and
7.
Bill the pony. Like,
Yeah.
you got everybody in there. Um I guess my second one would be Return of the King,
Mhm.
followed by Two Towers,
Mhm.
and then I guess I would put Unexpected Journey fourth, followed by Battle of Five Armies as fifth, and the second one, and I don't even know what the second one's name is.
Desolation of Smaug.
Desolation of Smaug,
Mhm.
and it's not because of Smaug. It's
Mhm.
just because like that whole like front end of the movie
Yeah.
is it drags for me.
Yep.
Like, and I just can't.
Oh, well, obviously my list is pretty similar. I can never decide if Fellowship or Return of the King is my favorite. I'd say they're both so good, but I would say I usually put Return of the King as my favorite, but really if I could tie them all, I would. So, but I would go Return of the King, Fellowship, Two Towers, and not because Two Towers is bad, it's also incredible. And then for Hobbits, I would do Unexpected Journey. And then I wish Smaug is so good, and I want to put Desolation of Smaug in second because of it, but it's a weaker movie than Battle of Five Armies. So I guess ours is the same.
Yay!
that needed to be put out there. Needed to be ranked.
I appreciate what you just sacrificed. I could feel it breaking, like
It hurts. It hurts every time.
Because there's nothing, especially with the other series. There's nothing really like it's going to be very subjective on which one gets put where,
Yeah.
and it's definitely something where it's like, okay. It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier with like other franchises where there's like 7 or 8 movies, and you're like, oh yeah. Like here, let me bust out my ranking.
Like it's way easier to rank Harry Potter and Star Wars than it is to rank Lord of the Rings, because all three of them are equally as amazing. So how can you rank 3 movies? You can't. Exactly. I guess we did, but
we did. Yes, we did. We did rank them. So as we wrap up, Lauren, hopefully you'll come back and do some more of these. We've got a lot of definitely some really strong unpopular opinions for the future. Yeah,
this was, anyone who's listening, this was the most mild topic that we started on. So if you're ready to get into the nitty gritty, I've got some real unpopular opinions about some real big fandoms.
That's right. And I do want to put out there, if anyone has an opinion on what we've talked about, feel free to email me at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com, or leave a comment on Twitter or on the Facebook page, and the links are in the show notes for me. Because if you got things to say, send them to me, and I'll make sure that Lauren gets them. I would appreciate like that there not be like people going to your stuff and be like, I didn't agree with what you said. Like,
yeah, it's just my opinion, guys. I don't care what you think about them.
Exactly. We're not making like YouTube videos and being like hard nasty about stuff.
No.
This is all good.
It's all good.
We're all good.
Chat.
That's right. We're all good. We love our fandoms. Mm-hmm. Lauren, for people that have listened, where can people go to like check you out on the internet? For either your cosplay or your business.
Yeah, so you can find all of my cosplay stuff on Instagram at Lauren Does Cosplay, all one word, and then my business stuff where I make Lord of the Rings and Hobbit type artwork is at In the Reads with a period in between each word. And yeah, lots of nerdy things on both those accounts.
Absolutely. And I'll have the links in the show notes. Lauren also did a previous episode, which is episode 160, and that link will be in the show notes as well. And we talked about Lord of the Rings and Stranger Things and cosplay and In the Reads, so you can learn more about that. I personally want to say that I purchased stuff off of the In the Reads website for Christmas and used them as Christmas gifts for friends and family. So definitely take a look and see if there's something that you're interested in. And my Shire bookmark is somewhere on my desk, covered up by work papers.
No,
so
as it should be. It should look like it's on Bilbo's desk. Covered in
I definitely could not find it right now if I needed to. It'd take me a good 10 minutes to find it.
Yeah, it'll turn up.
So yeah, I'll have the links to everything in the show notes, as well as the link to the previous episode. And hopefully, Lauren, you'll be back either next month or the month after for another unpopular opinion. And I'm pretty sure that the next one we talk about will be a one that will be intriguing to the majority of the fandom.
Ooh, intrigue.
But I appreciate you taking your time for today's episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. It was good to start off on a light note.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/talesfromthefandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.